Welcome to Angles and Insight, a show where we pair up two leaders in the tech world to discuss and debate key issues that face entrepreneurs and business leaders today. And we hope through these debates to give a more rounded and nuanced view of these important topics. So today, first up, we have Rand Fishkin. Rand is the co-founder and CEO of SparkToro, an audience research software, and the founder and former CEO of Moz, the company that wrote the book on modern SEO. He's dedicated his professional life to helping people do better marketing through his writing, speaking, and videos, including his popular Whiteboard Fridays. And also at the table is Leah Tharin. Leah is a serial entrepreneur who specializes in product-led growth and helping B2B companies get growth right by tying together distribution with their product and sales. And she's currently the interim CPGO of Got Photo, a tech scale-up based out of Berlin. And I'm your host and moderator, Casey Hill, Senior Growth Marketer here at ActiveCampaign. Let's dive into the issues. Our first topic is, what is AI hype and what is AI reality? Rand has positioned himself as a moderate voice in the AI conversation and actually publicly challenged those espousing AI as a job destroyer when earlier this year he said, "I don't think AI/LLMs are coming for your job. In fact, I'm willing to bet $5,000 in a charitable donation that in 5 years, less than 10% of all information economy jobs and less than 5% of marketing jobs are displaced by AIs. Leah, on the other hand, projects more than half of what we spend time on today as marketers will be replaced by AI in the years to come. So let's check in on this issue. I want to start with a question around AI. It's obviously been a really hot topic, and I think there's been a lot of this kind of questioning among brands between what is AI hype and what is AI reality. What are brands actually tangibly using AI for right now versus what is kind of speculative talk of what is going to be possible in the future? And so, Rand, I'd love to maybe start with you. I know you've been kind of a moderate voice in this conversation and have helped kind of maybe temper in a little bit some of the extremist views on either side here. So walk me through, what are you seeing folks using AI for effectively right now, and what is AI reality versus AI hype?
I actually think AI, obviously, AI doesn't exist, but large language models, what we call generative AI, those are being used across the business spectrum for all sorts of purposes. I use them regularly for classifying topics on huge sets of data. I use them for taking text that is dense and hard to parse and turning that into something more readable and consumable. I think the biggest challenge with AI right now, generative AI of any kind, is that you can't believe it every time it comes out, right? You have to double check your work when it gives you facts or data or supposedly correct answers. That requires looking up and confirming, and to me that costs a lot of time, right? That a human being doing that would not necessarily have to do. I will say I know folks who, I have a friend who runs an agency. He goes for runs and has a bunch of thoughts in his mind, and he, sort of word vomits them while he's running, and then has the AI turn that into, hey, what are the actionable takeaways from all those thoughts that I just had? And then he'll turn that into a few bullet points that he might send to himself or his team or change about his agency. Great. I know a woman who tragically is in the midst of a very painful divorce, and her ex-husband is kind of awful to her, like truly terrible. And so when he sends her messages, which are often insulting and demeaning and hard for her to read emotionally, she doesn't read them. She just has an AI turn it into, what is the actual takeaways? Please remove all the emotional content from this. Just tell me the facts of what my ex-husband is telling me about, kid pickup or something that has to be done. Great, fantastic, right? It makes her life considerably better to be able to filter that kind of stuff out. So does AI have tons of purposes? Absolutely, all across the spectrum. Is it something that is magic? No, I think it's like a spreadsheet program in 1985. It's transformative. It lets us do a lot of things we couldn't do before, but I don't think it's going to put 95% of people out of work. That's just silliness.
Leah, your thoughts?
I do have a lot of thoughts. So first of all, I disagree, of course, because I have to. I have been invited to disagree. So it is magic in some kind of ways, at least. So just really quickly, I agree with you as well. When we talk about generative AI, there's a lot of nuances to this. So I think in general, there's the meme stuff that is just super easy to kind of acquire customers with, and I have an engaging conversation going on, like, hey, look what this can do, like, and then these posts on LinkedIn, like, oh my god, the next Hollywood movie is around the corner, and like an entire AI can create it. No, we're very, 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 very far away from this, and because the thing that you really need to understand is that whatever AI creates needs to be in some kind of way better on a lot of different axes than what a human would do. So, and there's some very specific use cases, as I was thinking about this, that you could also use in business that are also happening all the time. So for instance, summarization was a very good kind of example. So you can summarize with a specific goal. Hey, summarize this for me, take the emotion out, translate it into Mandarin, or do something like this, whatever. And the problem with this is that in reality, this is almost already, it is already a commoditized offering. So this is very, very hard to monetize. And it changes how we are doing things. And I also do things. So for instance, when I create show notes for my podcast, I don't think that the generated notes are better than what I did by hand. I honestly don't think so, but they're good enough. They're
just
exactly.
faster.
So if you look at the summarized kind of value proposition, the plus is still there, and that's kind of fine. And one of my favorite examples in this regard that I really challenge also people to think about is in medicine. An AI might not be able to figure out like the most difficult kind of thing that you're dealing with when it comes to medicine and so forth, but it is infinitely faster. It is also probably better than most doctors when it comes to common things, so that happen often because it's also represented in the data set and so forth. And we said that this is never going to happen. This is never going to happen. AI is never going to automate away the doctor and so forth. So whenever we have this, so where the value add in total is better than what you have as an alternative, then I see a chance, and this is also when it is being used. Having said that, not always is this value add on the same axis, right? So for instance, a human doctor will never be able to execute faster than an AI in terms of the speed of the advice that it gives. But a human doctor might know some context that the AI doesn't know. Who is Casey hanging out with? Was he lying? Did he do this? Did he do that? Right? So this is where you have to look at value, I think, a little bit in a different way. So I'm going to pause right here because I have 520,000 different points, and Rand is already drawing something. So I want to give him the room. Go for it.
No, I am trying to synthesize exactly what we're both saying. Let me make sure. Okay. Common things that happen often doesn't need to be as good as the best human. Faster is better. Intersection of those three things, generative AI is great.
Here's a very interesting one. When we talk about faster is better, so time to value in some kind of way, because this is what this usually is. So when we talk about time to value, it's not over the overall process. Let's say you become sick. You have some kind of problem. And you can also look at this in the B2B context. Let's say I need now the information about something. At some point, the speed that is being increased is opening up new use cases that were not possible from before. So for instance, let's say you have someone calling you, the number is ringing on the phone. You have about 15 seconds. You have 15 seconds to do something about it. Let's say you have a whisper AI that can listen to you on the phone, and you say, like, hey, bring up the HubSpot contact so-and-so. He's calling me right now. This is something that is not possible, even if you have more time if you do it by hand, if you're not logged in, if you're the program is not started up, you do not know who it is and so forth. This is exactly what's very, very interesting, because this Venn diagram is also absolutely correct, but this is why we focus so much on time to value, because it is such a clear indicator in a lot of ways for customer value that you can objectively measure as well. Right? It's easy to make.
Yeah, Leah, I made this Venn diagram based on your statements. So
Amazing.
Sorry, Casey, I realize we're not debating. We're in fact reaching consensus.
That is okay. I think the outcome is hopefully some valuable and nuanced discussion around these topics, and I think that you guys provided a lot of great insight. Our next topic is SEO in 2024. In this section, we're going to dive into SEO and what strategies companies are adopting in 2024 to adapt to the changes in technology. As we mentioned, Rand is the former founder of the largest SEO company and is seen as one of the GOATs when it comes to this topic. Leah has also been in the trenches with several hyper-growth B2B SaaS, helping take brands like Small PDF from 12 million to 50 million users within 2 years. I've been in the B2B SaaS world for a decade, and so I not only operate from the lens of the changes that we're making, more investments in video, more investments in third-party community, but also the conversations that I have with hundreds of other software brands that are also seeing these changes and are grappling to figure out, what do we do? Do we start trying to post a bunch on Quora and Reddit? Do we start paying a bunch of creators to make videos? Like, what is ultimately going to help us get back what is often a little bit of an atrophy that folks are seeing from some of their conventional or maybe programmatic SEO strategies? So I would love, Leah, feel free to open up on this one, and then we'll pass it to Rand to hear about how you're thinking about SEO and what, if we can keep this also really focused on what people are actually doing, I think that would be incredibly valuable. Like, what are the tangible things that brands are doing or can be doing that will help them with their SEO in 2024 and beyond?
So I think, I don't want to go on a big tangent here, but like, what is SEO? SEO is the attempt to do something about how people will find you over usually Google. Let's just name it the way that it is, right? So what this now does, if we think about how our content, how our product, how our go-to-market motion is kind of found in the market, that means essentially that the blue links are dead. Right? So the blue links, the stuff that is being, so this is paid advertising, for instance, right? Like which SEO is also part of in some kind of way. So what do we have to do going into the future? If we start in the very far future, I think we will have a new kind of way in thinking about how do we prepare content? Because so far we were preparing content on websites to be machine readable, but mostly it was designed for humans. What we had is we had a specific interface, and then, like in the HTML, you had to adhere to certain rules and so forth. So what I think will happen is there will also be a new thing where you start to guide the way that AI models will consume your stuff, because we will have usage. We already do, by the way. We have usage that only AI interfaces will consume. So no amount of banner ads will help you or anything as well. So for instance, like if I say like, hey, Google, how is the weather today? Then it is going to go and is telling me the weather from a weather site without me ever having visited that one. So it's going to pull that data from there. So what is now the problem, and what do companies do? My issue is, and I would love to hear Rand's take on this, is that if you look at a company and you come in and you try to kind of figure out, so hey, where is the traffic coming from that we are doing? And let's say it is an SEO dominant business, and we usually have this particular problem that even if you know that 80% of your traffic is coming from SEO, continuous optimizations that you had and so forth, and all the rest, the other 20% is distributed among different channels. It is incredibly expensive and also incredibly inefficient to reduce this dependency. And most companies do not manage. So I'm just now posing a new problem instead of answering the question. But I do think I have one practical thing that I would definitely say. One problem that you can have as an executive in this particular makeup is, if you expect from an SEO team to come up with a solution for this problem, then they will come with SEO solutions. If you have a GTM team that does SEO, then you have a bigger chance of seeing what's going to happen in the market, because they're looking for any solution, and SEO might be a part of the answer. Like this typical saying of like, a firefighter will fight fires. That's kind of like my point, and I think that's my only tangible advice in this regard.
That is frustratingly excellent advice. So I obviously, for folks who don't know, I ran a company in the SEO space called Moz that I started a long time ago, and that business at its core would have deeply wanted to disagree with Leah, because it was in my best interest, our best interest, to have people obsessed with getting rankings for lots of unbranded keywords. Casey, I'm going to tell you something insane, which is when I started SparkToro 6 years ago, I invested almost nothing in SEO. And ever since then, I've invested also nothing in SEO. We rank for almost nothing except for our own brand names. And I believe this is actually sort of a way of the future. So I am very happy to do what SEO practitioners would call barnacle SEO. I'll show you what that is. Barnacle SEO is essentially... All right. Barnacle SEO is recognizing that there are... let me drag that over just a little bit for you.
Perfect.
Okay. All good? All right. Barnacle SEO is saying, all right, we have this page and it ranks, number 1 for term X and number 4 for term Y and number 7 for term Z, and it ranks, number 2 for this other term. And these are all keywords that I care about. Like I really want to rank for all those keywords over there. So rather than trying to compete directly with this page or this website, right? Let's say for example, I'm selling a new chef's knife. Well, New York Magazine's strategist puts out a best chef's knives, listicle every year. And they link to all these knives and they talk about which one's best and why they love them. Am I really going to beat them for all these terms? Like I'm going to have my SEO team go spend a bunch of time in there? Nope. I'm not going to do that at all. I'm just going to figure out how I can be on this page, right? I want my brand on your page or your site. So this is the strategy we've used at SparkToro. We've essentially said, we don't care if we rank for any of these generic terms. We are going to go out and do press and PR and podcasts and be on other people's webinars, be in the sources where we know people pay attention rather than trying to directly compete in the rankings, because we don't care if we get the traffic directly from Google. We are happy to get the brand mentions in positive press and coverage from all these other places and then have them drive traffic to us, right? And brand preference to us. And over time, my hope is, I think this is already close to being true. There are as many people searching for SparkToro and variants of SparkToro as there are people searching for audience research software. Oh, that's... I would much rather have people searching for my brand name than ranking number 1 for all my top keywords. So that is what we're changing strategically about our SEO practices. And it goes in a similar direction to what Leah is talking about.
That poses an interesting question, though, and I've been talking about this with Kieran Flanagan. So I'm 100% with you. I'm coming also historically from a business, that was not very, very strong on brand, but, we had so much volume that we were just building brand off of this volume and so forth. What happens in the future with brand building is getting increasingly harder if you cannot represent your brand, if whatever consumes what you offer is not being experienced by a human. So again, in my example of hey, how's the weather today? It will tell me, on the website, so-and-so, it's going to say it's 15 degrees. Then I just say hey, next time don't mention where you have it from, just tell me the temperature. And this is an interesting problem. And I don't think it's going to go through the entire industry, of course, right? So this is more on the commoditized stuff. But I think you're on the money, but it will be a very interesting challenge because I think brand is exactly where you have to flee to, and not just in these use cases. However, in these use cases as well, I think you can compete with others if you become hyper-specific. This is something that we see already right now. We see a hyper-verticalization where companies get more and more and more vertical. So it's not just about having a fitness app. It's about having a fitness app for pregnant women in the English-speaking, room that are over 40 or something, for instance. And there you can start to compete. And I think this goes also to your point. It's either brand or it's vertical. But for horizontal, not having deep pockets companies with not a strong brand, it's going to be super hard to force this. And I think that's a good thing.
I guess one quick follow-up kind of based on what you guys both said is, I'm curious, how do you optimize, let's maybe talk about for a moment specifically AI search then, right? Like zero-click results or AI search. Rand, how does that play into Barnacle SEO from your vantage point? And also maybe even more broadly, how should people think about this? Because I've gotten that question maybe 20 different times talking with VPs and people. They're like, how do we optimize for AI search? It's clearly something that people are very interested in knowing.
Yeah. So, all right. first off, we understand at the core how large language models work, which is predicting tokens that come after other tokens, right? So predicting words that come after other words. So it's not that the large language model knows that water is wet. It's that it's seen in its corpus and database that many times after the word water is, they find wet, right? And so they're mimicking that back to you, puppeting back what they've already seen across the web at scale. Now, if you extrapolate that to how is Google going to generate AI answers, they are looking at, similar to ChatGPT or Bard or Gemini or any of these other ones, they are looking at the question and then they are essentially showing you what is commonly discussed on the web around those things. So if you think about that from a brand perspective, the strategy I just talked about works perfectly, right? If almost every time someone talks about audience research software, they also talk about SparkToro, then we're going to be in the AI overview when people ask Google or Bard or Gemini or ChatGPT, hey, what are options for audience research software? Where can I get the demographics of plumbers in New Mexico? Where can I find out which podcasts, science fiction authors in New York listen to? And if those words often appear with the brand name SparkToro, more often than any of the other brand names out there, boom, we win, even if we don't rank for it. And I don't care if that's an instant answer. I have no problem with that, right? The 0-click answers, I'm not going to get any click from it. I don't care, because what I've done is branded someone similar to how you might drive by a billboard or hear a radio ad or watch something on TV or go to a sports stadium and see a name on a flyer. It's the same kinds of marketing that you might do in those paid advertorial spaces, advertising spaces, but scaled to AI and the web. I don't know. Marketing hasn't changed that much, friends.
No.
That's fair. And I definitely have that association between SparkToro and audience research as someone who's been in kind of the B2B and SaaS space for a while. So success in an N of one there. Our next topic is about hiring. When should you hire a full-time employee versus an agency versus a freelancer? I really wanted to dig into this topic. They have a wealth of experience both hiring full-time employees and agencies. And Leah herself is currently an interim CPO. So let's hear what they think. How should folks think about making internal hires versus a freelancer, consultant, fractional versus an agency? Each of these, I think, is a different kind of bucket. And I think oftentimes, I think about this on the marketing side all the time as I'm making hires, what the pros and cons are between those. And I think a lot of other brands too. So I would love, Rand, feel free to kick us off to get your thoughts on when you make each of those different categories of hires.
Yeah, let's see. So I like full-time hires only when we have chosen to make that something we're going to be best in the world at, right? If that's going to be a strong competitive advantage for us as opposed to a marketing channel or tactic where we play at a competitive level, but we don't expect to be absolute best in the world over a long period of time, then I would choose an agency or a consultant. I also hate managing people, and I don't like having a big team. So my bias, SparkToro is only 3 people, right? It's just me, Amanda, and Casey. When we need customer research, right, we hire Demand Maven to do that for us. When we need, finance, when we need accounting help, when we need SEO help, like any help, I like to hire consultants and agencies. But for things where we're going to be best in the world, for example, I think our email newsletter is one of the best in the world. Amanda Natividad, probably one of the best email newsletter creators in the marketing universe. So makes total sense to have her running our marketing newsletter as opposed to outsourcing that to an agency. That's really my criteria.
Yeah, fair enough. Leah, what about you?
I'm trying to get this out of my head because it's actually a quite complicated question. So I'm not an agency fan for various different PTSD experiences that I've had in the past. Like I've really had some.
Oh, good. This is a debate. Here we go. Now we can fight about that.
No. I had really bad experiences. Except when I had some good experiences, then it was with brand. So it is really interesting how strong brand is in the agency business once you have managed to really wow a customer. Because all the other agencies are so bad that the few ones that are really, really good can actually have a sustainable kind of business. So to really create these good successes, that's kind of quite hard. But like, I'm not in the agency business. I'm just saying. So when would I hire an agency regardless? If I have a dedicated project budget that cannot go over something else, it's usually easier with an agency to define a contract that does not run over. And even if it does, then they are responsible for fixing it. So there's some tech projects that you can do. There's some other stuff that you can do. You know, like, it takes away risk. It makes it very predictable. It might not be cheap. It might be expensive even. But there are some agencies where you can do this. There are some interesting agencies coming up that have a very high component in success. So they're also getting paid a share, which is essentially turning them into kind of like a salesperson and so forth. Personally like that approach. Not a lot of agencies are doing it. I do not know why they're not doing it. But maybe it is also a little bit that I do not think that agencies are very good at the company internal innovation. The reason for this is the same problem that I have. So I am a freelancer technically, right? Like, I'm an interim CPO. And the trajectory that I have when I go into a company is always the same. At the very start, so in the first couple of months or weeks, I can give tactical advice from what I know from the other companies. And it usually works. So you can do what you know from the market and you can kind of apply it. And I have a lot of different perspectives from others, right? So like, this absolutely makes sense. After that, I need to become really good in marketing, in market knowledge and the internal workings of the company to have any impact. Because, you know, my knowledge is kind of, you know, it's kind of used up. And even if you have two companies that are doing the same, every one of those has a different target segment that you need to work with. They have probably different pricing, they have different packaging. You know, the low-hanging fruits that the C-levels love to talk about, they're just like kind of drying out. So there you need to start to become really good in the market and in the industry and so forth. So what does that mean now? This means never hire a freelancer if you have to hire them over 10 to 12 months, because now you're running at the risk that whatever good stuff that they produce, they're just going to go away. Well, because they're a freelancer, right? Like, they're kind of like a soldier in that sense. So I think freelancers are really good when you are 100% sure what the solution is. You can give someone a clear briefing and you can tell them, this is the number one thing that we need to fix. And then just go, right? So like people like me, I bring my network in, I hire also other people. And the internal hires make sense if it is a long-term strategic bet that you already know we have time, resourcing is in place, but maybe what you are doing will change down the line. And this is usually the case when you have internal knowledge. So like, let's say you start to figure something out from sales or from customer success by sitting in a customer call that you were not aware of before. A freelancer will not be incentivized, and an agency neither, to look now for a solution that comes outside of their silo. Again, you know, firefighter is fighting fires, and a marketing agency will provide marketing agency solutions, but they have absolutely no grip internally in your company in that sense.
Yeah, that's super valuable, I think, to flush out like a number of sides. And I think I see a lot of those I see a lot of those two sides in conversations that I have with folks. Rand, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have 4 big points I would like to strongly disagree with.
All right, let's do it.
Hey, look, we're actually living up to the title of our...
I have budget. If you make a good case, maybe I'm hiring you. Go.
I'm not available, unfortunately, but that's very kind. So are most agencies or consultants bad? And once you work with the few great ones, I completely disagree with this. I think that like employees, like dating partners, like anything in life, there are great agencies for certain companies and there are terrible agencies for certain companies. And there's no overlap. There's not like, oh, this agency is good for everyone. That agency is bad for everyone. That consultant is good for everyone. That consultant is bad for everyone. In my experience, I know hundreds of consultants and agencies. People give me feedback that like, hey, I had a really good experience with this agency. Hey, I had a bad experience with this agency. Hey, I had a great experience. Most of the people I recommend are like 7 or 8 out of 10 of their customers love working with them. 2 or 3 have a bad time. And I think it's a matchmaking process, right? It is culture fit. It is stylistic fit. It's communication style fit. It's a million different things that don't even have to do with the actual work itself. I would argue it's just like hiring people. And for anyone who's had 5 jobs, you know that some places you worked at, you were a 10 out of 10 rock star and everyone who worked with you would have said so. And some places you worked at, you don't even put it on your LinkedIn because you had an embarrassing experience there, and the people there, you were like, no, that was their fault. And they're like, no, that was your fault. Anyway, I just don't believe this. I believe you have to find a right fit. Think about it like hiring. Pay for performance. Why don't more consultants did this? I did this once. No, I did this twice. And I'll be honest, this is back in my very early consulting days. I made a lot of money. It was like the only way I dug myself out of debt. It was very, very successful. And since then, I've come around to the view that is a terrible, terrible idea and almost no one should ever do it. And that is because you are given accountability and financials based on things you cannot own and control, which is the worst possible scenario you can be in. I just would advise everyone against getting into a situation where your pay is based on things you can't control. So, reliability of freelancers versus employees. I actually hate employee relying completely on employees versus a freelancer. As an example, if someone comes into my organization, they take 3 to 6 months to ramp up, right? Get their skills on board, make them like a great fit for the company. A freelancer usually is performing at tip-top level month 1. I freaking love that. I love that I don't have to train them. I don't have to show them what to do. I just give them the project. I'm like, hey, this is the results I'm seeking. This is the outcome. I know you do this. Please do it for me. Boom, it's done. You bring someone aboard, you train them. 2 years later, they leave. Now you spend the next 6 to 9 months getting the next person on board. That ramp up period is long and slow. And I've never talked to someone who hires full-time employees who has them performing at peak performance in 90 days. That's like next level, almost impossible. It doesn't matter if it's software engineering or marketing. Last one, incentives to look outside their purview. I do actually agree with you, Leah, here. It's not that they don't have an incentive. They do have an incentive to look outside their purview, but they don't have the tools and resources, right? They're not allowed to look outside their purview. So for example, when I know lots of SEO consultants who, when they come and say, hey, this is a brand and product problem, and if you can fix that, we think that the SEO can follow. The client is the one who's like, that's not your job. You don't tell us that. How do you know that? We don't trust you on that. And so consultants and agencies have been trained through experience not to bring up things that are outside of their purview. Some of them do. I think when you do, it can be helpful. There are ways to have that conversation, but it's emotionally challenging and complex. And I would put this mostly on the execs who hire the agency, not on the agencies and consultants.
All right, 60 seconds for the rebuttal, and then I want to hop on to the next question.
Not what I said, but mostly what I said. So I do agree. I did not say that most agencies or consultants are bad. First of all, consultants and agencies are two different things. I'm also a consultant in my free time. Just wanted to say this. This is the first thing. The problem of an agency is the same problem that you have in an organization that has different silos. The person who is selling you the contract has very little incentive in talking you out of the contract if there is not a good fit. So that puts the burden of it to the person that is hiring you. So you are right. I'm just saying this is more of a CEO's problem. And this is something that happens with agencies. People need to be aware of this. I'm not going to say anything new here. The other thing is I also try to make something on the whiteboard. I know you cannot see it. It doesn't matter. So here, the higher your influence is over the outcome, the more likely, so over the outcome here, the more likely you should actually ask for being, I don't know what this is up here, but like this means like the more likely you should ask for being compensated on the outcome. What I do, for instance, and this is in well alignment as well, like so since I'm an interim, I ask for 50% cash and 50% equity whenever possible if I go into a company as an interim. And it's not always possible, but there I actually own the outcomes in some kind of way, not directly, but there's also other compensation in this regard. It's not just like pay per lead and so forth, but otherwise I'm with.
And when you say, when you go in, you're like a contract CMO,
CPO,
right?
Yes.
Chief product, I mean, so that, I think that's a much higher level
of course.
ownership control.
Yeah. Absolutely. But the principle remains exactly in the way that you said. If you own the outcomes, only if you own them completely, then you can also be incentivized on this.
Love it. Appreciate you guys fleshing out a lot of sides of that. Our next topic is all around email newsletters and owned assets. Both of our guests have very successful newsletters and strong opinions on what helps them be successful. Leah focuses on product-led growth and leadership and has over 25,000 subscribers on Product T. Rand's team has both the SparkToro newsletter around audience research and newsletters from teammates like Amanda that total tens of thousands of subscribers. Both of you have successful email newsletters, and I think there's a lot of movement right now to try to have owned data, to try to have something where you control some of those variables and you're not as beholden on, the walled gardens as they get talked about on social. So I would love to unpack for both your situations what has been effective in building your newsletter, like what is the nature of the content, as well as maybe any kind of big or key learnings that you've had over that journey. So Leah, I'll start with you. Feel free to kick this off.
So really quickly, so what do I have? I have a community where I have the emails of about 25,000 people that are somewhere on around PLG, so product-led growth, senior leadership, that kind of stuff. And this is a big number for me as well. Like, I'm not the biggest and so forth, but what does this now mean? This number is relatively meaningless if you do not put context to it. And this is also a very important caveat on how you should build a list like this. I agree with you. Yes, you should own the data. But it does not help me if I could just scrape emails from some kind of website and so forth, because these are low intent and so forth. And obviously there's no connection to the thing. So basically this goes back to what Rand said. If your brand is strong, and let's just treat your email list as a market. And this is the whole market, right? I will not reach my entire market all the time. I will have very low intent users. I have some that are, it's also a tiny thing and so forth. What I want to do is I want to know who I have in these lists. So how do you know who you have in these lists? By being extremely consistent and also cleaning out that stuff. What do I mean with this? This means absolute, utter discipline when it comes to consistency of posting, which is an obvious one, but another one is consistency in format. Consistency in format means don't just have a podcast and then you switch everything over to a written newsletter and so forth. Treat these as two individual kind of channels. We also talked about this, Casey. Consistency on how you talk to the audience. Now, why is this important? Because I know if I'm gathering a specific type of people within these 6 months, those that are always awake at 8 o'clock in the morning, that are, they're listening to me while they're eating breakfast and so forth. If I change too much for those, I might lose them even though I have a strong brand with them. And this is why this is so important. So I'm not sure whether I should also clean out my email list, because I have a lot of people who are, that came from lower intent and so forth, but I was considering it as well. But what I want to have is a high converting, smaller kind of unit where I know what I'm getting out of. And this is an interesting problem that I have, for instance, on LinkedIn. I don't know how it is for your end, but I have a problem. Whenever I do something that is in the real world, so for instance, I'm hosting something tomorrow in Madrid, I cannot reach these people. Why can I not reach them? Because whenever I say I'm going to be in Madrid, then it's irrelevant for 99% of the people that I'm going to reach out to. Why? Because in the last year, I have not been talking about Madrid. It's just a one-off thing, right? So it's irrelevant for most of the people. So you need to kind of find ways in how you can sort of weave this in some kind of way. Is it still make it relevant a little bit, with a meme on top of it or whatever? But it is super difficult. So what does this mean? Consistency on topics, type of media. And the other thing is, and I can report on this as well, if you slack off, you will pay. 50% reduction in consistency does not mean that you lose 50% of reach that you could have gained. You lose 80 or 90% right now. That has been my experience. You will be punished because there's so much
on LinkedIn or in your
LinkedIn.
email?
Well, LinkedIn less probably, but on my emails, my paid subscribers have gone down dramatically as well because I've been busy in the last 3 months. It's not a linear connection. That also means that if you might double your efforts, and you might see a triple, 4 times, 5 times X return. It's just one of these initiatives where you just because you show up twice a week does not mean that you are now half as effective as if you show up every week. It really doesn't work this way. There is a specific amount of time where you have to be present within people's minds, otherwise brand cannot be built.
Awesome. Yeah. Gosh, I'm going to be hard pressed to give better actionable insights than those. However, I do want to say this about email. So I'm going to graph for you what Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Threads is reach per follower rate looks like, right? Which is, so go back to, let's start around 2010. right? And we're gonna, okay, let's see. So this is reach per follower. So think of this kind of like email open rate, but as it applies to the social media world. And this is time, right? So time here, 2024, way over here. Okay, here's Facebook. Oh, what do you think LinkedIn looks like? Oh, hey, look at that. Oh my God, surprising. Instagram. Wow, geez, these suck. What's happening? Oh, here's Twitter. They sucked faster. Do you know what it is for email? I'm gonna draw email right now. Email, except email actually we have data going back to 2004. We know what average open rates, average click-through rates were. Okay, imagine we're way higher. Unfreaking believable. Email open rates have been around 22% on average for 2 decades. They have not budged. It is absolutely incredible. That platform is so much more powerful than any other subscription that you can get. I will take 100 emails over 1 million TikTok followers, even though I would really impress my young nieces with 1 million TikTok followers.
Not suspicious about open rate measurement? Because this is a thing that I started to get really, really, really suspicious.
I'm generally not, well, let's see. So if you look at, for example, like the MailChimp averages over the last 12 years, they've been one of the biggest providers and they have some of the most consistency. You can see a big spike in open rate when Apple changed what they count as an open, which is essentially just that you browse through it. You don't actually see the email. But if you control for the percent that are Apple, users, you will see that the open rate remains stable. Again, these are averages. This is not saying like your specific newsletter might not have issues, right? You should be auditing those things. Those really help. We look at our email newsletter. Amanda is obsessive about that. We do clean our list. So our list, we have about 250,000 people who've tried the free version of SparkToro. Most of those people have not clicked the opt out of email, but every quarter we remove anyone who hasn't opened an email at all in the last 90 days or 100 days. So if you haven't engaged with any of our emails, you get taken off the list. We send you a little email that's like, hey, we haven't seen you open these, we're taking you off the list, you can resubscribe here if you want. But occasionally somebody does. But our list right now is around, I think it's like 45 or 50,000 people. So about 1/5 of the people who've been put into our newsletter sequence are still with us. But this means that our open and click-through rates are like double industry averages. We're like hovering in the 40% for open rate. We're hovering in the 18-20% for click-through rate. So again, very huge channel for us. When we send out emails, we can see a spike in subscriptions. It's like we're reminding people SparkToro exists. They go play with the tool again. Some of them are like, oh man, I really need this right now. And they subscribe. So I just can't say enough good things about building an email newsletter through all the tactics Leah just talked about.
Do you guys think, so this is one of the things that I talked about in my Stanford class. I'm curious to get your guys' opinion on it. So I basically put opens as the least valuable engagement metric. Better than opens is clicks. Better than clicks is page views. Better than page views is replies. So that's the hierarchy that I've seen because the auto opens, and even with Barracuda and spam filters, often clicks even get auto clicked. But those auto clicks don't register as page views typically. So if you use page views, at least my experience has been, those are more reliable as a metric than clicks. And obviously replies are kind of king. If someone actually writes you a personalized reply, that's probably the best engagement that you can drive. Do you guys think about it in a similar way, or you just kind of use we use opens and clicks as our proxy and that's just easier?
I mean, because we have a team of only 3 people, we aim for not that many replies. So it'd be very hard if hundreds of thousands of people were replying to our content. So we look more for searches and signups, right? So if people use the product after they, come to it, because an automated click is not going to do that.
That's fair.
I think this is a very good point. So what do you want to convert, or what do you want people to do with this? And this is exactly in the way that you also said, Casey. I actually picked this up from you. It's not just about what kind of different engagement metrics do you have within an email. It's also what is the purpose of this email? So for instance, on LinkedIn, we've been using memes and stuff as well, like as a very good kind of way on keeping people engaged, like and staying on top of mind and so forth. What a meme does not do is it does not sell you any students for your courses and so forth. So this is an interesting thing because you need to think also about like in which context is something being sent. So for instance, I believe in this. I do not have data for this, but maybe Rand can also provide it. Let's say my goal with a LinkedIn post or with an email is that someone visits my profile, whatever that is, right? So like a profile would be on LinkedIn, my profile, so like the profile page and so forth. And then the other thing is on Substack, this would mean like my homepage, like, so they click on like, so who is she now? Like, I'm actually interested in this. If your page that you want as a target is not optimized at this moment for this particular intent, then you have a problem. Now, what does that mean? In a page that is dynamically changing, so for instance on LinkedIn, it's always the top 3 posts that you have. If you only have memes, then you will be recognized as the meme machine from these people, and there's very low stickiness overall in there. And I'm saying this as, sure, you can have fixed links and you can have your LinkedIn banner and so forth, how you present yourself and so forth and so forth. But I do think that the freshness of the content, oh, she's very active, oh, she's talking about this, oh, that's very interesting as well, is generating infinitely more trust, goodwill from people, and recognizability. Rand standing with his whiteboard there constantly, like every week. It's not, no, but like this is exactly the thing. It's generating much more conversions also through the funnel. And this is why just an email by itself is not a meaningful metric. But I'm with you, Casey. I really look into like who went through. Sometimes click-throughs are at the end, sometimes not, and so forth. I don't care about this too much, but I can usually track it down to the amount of subscribers that I'm getting. And then the higher intent subscribers, which are the paid ones, is also something that I can segment. What never, ever, ever works is as if the intent that you try to cash in. So you're pushing for something like, hey, my name is Leah. I have a product-led growth course. It's only going to cost $950. 0 people will convert if they hear about you for the first time in that particular moment. So you need to know the context. That's what it is.
Yep. I mean, I think that I really love this model that you're essentially like describing, Leah, which is essentially you're using the largest potential reach channels to earn awareness and engagement. And then those sort of turn into the conversion to the opt-in email list, which become customers or fans.
Yes.
And I think this is fundamentally the way to think about the difference between social media or SEO or PR or content marketing. All of those sort of organic marketing tactics, and even a lot of brand advertising, is following this pattern over and over again and getting good at it. And also being willing to get your client, your team, your boss, yourself to believe that this is the way you're doing it, right? The thing I think Leah mentioned that's so smart is if you earn awareness with something that is not actually what you provide here, right? And something that does not provide the same kind of value to the same people in the same way with the same style, the conversion rate is going to drop off through this process. And simultaneously, if you use these channels to try and immediately get sales, right? Get people to give you money for doing a thing.
Oh, it's not working. It's not working. We have to shut down the channel. There you go. Boom, done.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, social media doesn't work for us. We're not getting any customers. Nah, man, that ain't it.
This has been awesome. I'm super grateful for you both hopping on, for sharing actual real firsthand experience. I mean, from my just overall lens of looking at the industry, it's so rare to find actual firsthand experience, real data being kind of put out there transparently. And I think that's some of the stuff that is most helpful for practitioners to actually take and implement and get results. So super grateful for you both. And this has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Casey.
Thank you for joining us. This has been Angles and Insight, a podcast by ActiveCampaign, an intelligent marketing automation company that helps small teams power big businesses. Learn more and try free for 14 days at activecampaign.com.